So if you're like me, you love your motorcycles, you like taking pictures of them, you like showing them off, all that good stuff. Now for me as a professional photographer, I have my own business, that's what I do full time. I have the equipment to do that. I've got the DSLRs, I've got the lighting, I've got all the good stuff to make great photos. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it with just your cell phone. New cell phones have the technology to create fantastic photos. You're not gonna be able to capture everything that you can with a DSLR, a big camera like this, but you can still capture some great photos with your cell phone, whether that's an Android or an iPhone. Today, we're gonna be working with the iPhone. If you are using an Android, you can still use these same concepts with your phone to capture images like this. So we're gonna go for a ride, we're gonna find a spot to take some photos, and we're gonna talk about 3 things that you can do to improve the image quality and the look of your cell phone images of your motorcycle. And for this demonstration, we're going to be using the S1000. This is the 2021 BMW S1000. We're going to use this for our prop bike today and show you how to take photos.
Now, a lot of times when I'm going to do a photo shoot with a motorcycle or a car or a person or anything, I've got all my gear, I've got equipment, I've got my props, I've got all these things that make my life easier. But today I'm going in with nothing other than my cell phone and obviously what I'm recording with. But everything's gonna be things that you have around you, all the things that you have with you right now that you go take these photos with without any special equipment or anything like that. And for today's demonstration, we have found ourselves in, I believe this was a Burger King. I'm surprised they haven't all shut down yet. They're terrible. But anyway, we're using their property today, so thank you Burger King, or what was. And we're using this property to take our photos. And I picked this location because the background's not super busy. It's kind of one color. It's green. It's going to contrast well with the bike. Again, these are just small things you don't necessarily have to pay attention to because sometimes we're taking photos at a gas station or a meat spot or whatever the case is. But this is just why I chose this location. Now that we've got the bike here, we've got a location here at this beautiful Burger King that's all boarded up. We're gonna take some photos. But before we can take the photos, we actually have to set everything up. And again, there's only like 3 things that we have to do to ensure that the bike looks really, really good when a photo's taken of it. All right, so as you can see, the bike is sitting over there. She looks beautiful. But here's the thing. There's a reason why I parked it the way that I did. And this is something that you should probably keep in mind. When taking a photo of a motorcycle, we've got a good side, we've got a bad side. And why do I say that? Well, if you look on this side of the bike, you've got a kickstand, you've got chain, you've got all this whatever over here. Then you come to the good side, or what I consider the good side, and we've got the exhaust, we've got no kickstand, we've got that beautiful titanium in there. These are all things that we want to showcase in the photo. And that's why in a lot of my work, you'll notice that I'm constantly photographing the right side of motorcycles. Sometimes I'll put it on a stand and then I'll do the other side. But the big thing I'm trying to avoid is that kickstand. I think the kickstand's ugly. I don't like it. I don't like taking photos of it. So I take photos of the other side. So once we've got the bike positioned like this, I've got the pretty side facing me. My background's over there. There's one other thing that I like to do when I'm setting up the bike to take photos of it. And that is, I want to get rid of this lean. So right now we've got this natural lean because of the kickstand, and I don't like that. And again, I have props. I've got things that I use for my photos, but I didn't bring any of that with because I'm just going to use what I have access to, similar to what you're going to have access to when you go take photos. We're just going to look around for things to prop the bike up. This could be anything from a stick or a rock or something, but there's always something in your environment that you can use for this. We just got to find it. Things like this from a palm tree that we've got down here in Florida, we could use that. Here we go. We got this little cutoff from a tree or something like that. We're gonna use that. Looks like a little puck. So now we've got the kickstand on the little block, which has straightened the bike up quite a bit compared to where we were. It looks a lot better already. And this part might not be necessary depending on the type of bike or whatever the case is, but I like the bikes to be sitting upright, and that's why I do it this way. So after I put that little block in there, obviously we want to make sure that the bike is not going to fall over, because that would be terrible and that would ruin the entire photo shoot and the bike. So we just want to be careful about that, but that's part of it. And then once we have it up, we just want to make sure that the wheels are straight as well. As you can see, we've got the wheels straight. And for the next part, I'm gonna switch to the GoPro, the helmet cam. That way you can watch along as we take some photos of the beautiful S1000. All right, so now that we are on the helmet cam, we are looking at the phone. This is what we're looking at here. There's a couple other things that I kind of want to grab. I want to grab some other props here. So we're gonna walk over here. We're gonna find some like little brush stuff. Let's just find something green, and this looks kind of fun. We're just gonna grab this little thing right here. All right, we've got the beautiful bike sitting over there. Next, we want to frame up our shot. And basically what I like to do here is I like to stick on the corner here and just be a direct shot from that. That way we get some of the front of the bike, but we also get some of the back of the bike and the side of the bike. We just kind of get to see the whole thing at kind of like an aggressive angle. And next we're going to talk about the actual camera itself. So I'm using the newest iPhone 13 Extra Pro Extreme, whatever the hell it's called. But you could do this with really any phone. I prefer this phone just because it's got the different lenses on it, which I'm going to utilize in this tutorial as well. But you could still do this without those functions. You could technically just zoom in and stuff like that, which we're going to get into here in a second. So if you're working with a phone that has the 0.5, the 1x, and the 3x zoom, what I prefer to use is the 3x zoom. And the reason for that is because it just kind of compresses the image a little bit, because here's what happens if we get a 0.5 wide angle. Everything kind of looks kind of weird, not super weird, depending on the style of photo you're going for. That's just not my style, so I like to zoom everything in. If you've seen me out in the wild shooting at a bike event or anything like that, you realize that I'm always carrying this giant lens. That's why. So the first photo we're going to take, we are going to do it in a horizontal, whoops, hey, that's my dog. We're going to do it in a horizontal motion, fashion, whatever you call it, similar to this. We could also do it vertical like this, but I'm going to start by doing it horizontal. Again, these tips will work no matter which way you decide to shoot your photo. Step one, I've got it in 3x zoom, which is going to give me a nice little compressed photo. It's going to bring that background. It's going to make it look pretty nice. The other thing that I like to do is I make sure that the bike is facing, as you can see on my screen here, I've got the bike on one side of the screen and open space to the right, basically showing that the bike is facing into that direction. Once I get it framed up about to where I want, and again, composition, when it comes to a photo, there's a million ways to do it. There's the golden rule. There's all these different rules that you're supposed to follow. But as long as you leave some space in there, we're not going to go super in depth with all of that. But this is how I would frame this photo. Similar to this. Next thing I'm going to do, once I have it framed in, I'm going to grab my little exposure thing here. And I'm just going to play with it a little bit. Slide it up and down. I want it to be about right there. I don't want it to be, it's super bright out today, but I don't want it to overtake the white. I don't want those highlights to take that white. So once I have my photo framed up, we're back to our little weeds here. And the reason for the weeds is because I like to put a little bit of a foreground in some of my photos. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of hang it in front of the camera a little bit. So it just looks like you're shooting through something. Kind of like that. Kind of just adds a little bit of something to it. So here's going to be our first photo. We're going to take that photo right there. Another tip, as you can see, you can't really see, but I am knelt down. Here's one thing that a lot of people do is they'll come up here, they'll take a photo, and they'll take a photo like this. They'll take a photo like this. But the problem is you're too high. It looks weird. It looks weird. That's a good tip for if you're trying to sell a vehicle. Stop taking photos like this. Make them artistic. Drop the lens down. Come down low. Come down low. Get that low, pointing up kind of shot, which is what we're going to do here. We've got that 0.3 again. We're going to come back here. We get everything framed in. We're going to come down low. We got a little bit of foreground in there with the little weeds that we picked. We're going to take a photo. We're going to take a couple photos. It's super bright out today, so you shouldn't have any camera shake. But if you look at the photo that we just took, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Let's grab a couple more. Again, staying low, grabbing something for the foreground. You don't even need the foreground if you don't want to, but I like it to look like I'm shooting through something. It just looks fancy. So then, we get a photo like that, which just looks kind of artistic. And again, you could do the exact same thing if you wanted to do it in a vertical fashion like this, which is a lot of like Instagram posts and stuff like that. There is a wonderful trick that I use all the time when I shoot this way. I'll do the exact same thing, 3x zoom, but I'll turn my phone upside down, which allows me to get low and kind of point up a little bit. So I'll do that, and then we'll be able to take those photos. Because when you do it this way, you can only get so low because the camera is on top of your phone, so it just kind of looks weird. But if you just flip it like that, you'll be able to grab those photos. Looks nice to me. As a good rule of thumb, try to make sure that your camera is level with your front fender. That's about a perfect little height, in my opinion. And then you're gonna get a great shot of your bike at the perfect angle. It's gonna be wonderful. Bye, Burger King. Hope you find your dad. Oh yeah, and always, if you grab stuff from the wilderness and bring it to the parking lot, put it back in the wilderness. Don't just leave stuff laying around. It's rude. So alright, now that we've got the photos, we're going to go back to the house. I'm going to show you just a quick guide on how I edit these things. We're not going to get into super extreme details, but I'm going to show you the app that I use and a lot of the specific features of the app that I use to edit my cell phone photos.
Alright, so now that we went and took some photos of the bike, we got to edit these photos. Now there's a handful of ways that you could do this. There's a million different free apps out there, or you could just use like the different filters on Facebook or on Instagram if you want to go that route. But if you want to get more in depth, keep watching. Now personally, I use all of the Adobe Suite things for all my professional stuff, everything from my videos that I edit, to the photos I take, to the logos I design. All of these things are done throughout the Adobe Suite. Now this can be very expensive, and if you're not making money doing it, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to pay for those particular things. But Adobe does have a free Lightroom app, which can be found in the Apple Play Store or the, what is it, the Android Play Store or something like that, I don't know. The app stores, basically. Whatever app store you're accessing, go there and look for the Adobe Lightroom Classic app. Once you have the app open, you can import the photos that you took, you can pick your favorite ones, and you can edit that one. But anyway, let's put you on the screen so you can see what I'm doing in real time. Alright, so we've imported our image that we want to use. This is the image that I'm actually going to use for the thumbnail for this video, and that's why we're going to be editing it live. So the first thing that I typically do, and I think I already did to this photo actually, is I like to, and then with this one it's a little bit harder, but you kind of want to level up your line. So I'll go to the crop, and down here you can see how you can twist the photo and stuff. A lot of times when we take a photo, it's going to be a little off skew, it's going to look a little weird, but by doing this we can straighten things up. Whether if we have a horizon in the background, we can straighten that so it doesn't look all weird, or if we've got actual straight lines, like for instance we've got that fence post to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of straighten that up a little bit. We're going to press the little check mark at the bottom right, and the photo looks a little bit better, but I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to rotate it a little bit more just because it looks a little weird. That looks pretty good to me. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do as far as editing goes, and this app has all kinds of different things that you can do. You can do some healing, which means that you can remove different things within the photo. So for instance, if I wanted to remove this little shadow over here, I could do that, just kind of draw over it, and it's going to see how it kind of grabs from another location, kind of heals it. It's cool. I'm not going to do that, but the options are there. Play with the app and it's gonna excite you, I promise. But anyway, we're back to the photo. We're gonna get out of the healing brush. We're gonna discard those changes. And the next thing we're gonna do, again in this, just like Instagram, Facebook, you do have presets at the bottom here that you can use. You can add those to your photos, whatever. It's pretty cool. But we're gonna cancel out of that because we're gonna go to the effects that I personally use within this app. One being the light. I usually come in here, it's gonna show you your exposure, your contrast, and your highlights. Now today we were shooting in super bright conditions, which means we have a lot of highlights in there, but with this little highlight slider, we can bring it down just a little bit. We can bring our exposure, we can play with that a little bit. Typically I like my photos on the brighter side, so I'll do something like that. And then contrast, I usually bump that up just a tad bit, like +3 contrast there, just so that there's a contrast between the darks and the lights and everything else, the colors, everything just kind of pops a little bit better. The next thing we're gonna go to is the color, and a lot of times people will do a little bit too much when it comes to the color. They'll take their saturation and they'll make it super crazy and whatnot. I typically don't touch the, I usually don't touch the saturation a whole lot. So we're gonna put that's at +1, whatever. Don't care. The temp is gonna be the temperature of the photo, so you can either make it super cool or you can make it super warm. Typically my photos are on the warmer side. For today's video, we're going to put it at +8. And then at any time that you feel like you wanna see the before and after, if you put your finger on the photo, hold down, it'll go to your before, let off, it'll take you to after. Then you go to effects, you've got clarity and texture and dehaze, which are pretty important when it comes to cell phone photography. You can take your clarity, and if you slide that, you can see how it just kind of, it sharpens everything. Kind of claritizes things. So to do that, I usually bump that up just a little bit, and then with my dehaze, what that does is it takes some of the haze out of it. So if you have some, like, I don't know, some weird sunspots or I don't know, whatever, it just kind of makes it pop a little bit. So I'll give that like a plus, we'll put that at a +8. Let's see what our before and after looks like. It's looking pretty good so far. Vignetting, what that does is it'll add, I'll show you here. So see how it kind of adds the little black circle around it, or the white circle if you go the other way. Not a huge fan of that, so we're gonna put that at 0. We're just gonna leave that one alone. And the next one, we're gonna go to the detail. And again, cell phone photography is not necessarily the sharpest. It's not, its optics are good, but it's not DSLR good. So what I'll do with that is I will sharpen that up a little bit. If we zoom in here, you can kind of see the difference here. So that's unsharpened. We can sharpen it up just a little bit, and it'll give us some of that detail back, even when we zoom in, which is kind of nice. I'm not gonna deal with any of the other options there. We're just gonna sharpen it up quite a bit. We sharpened it up to 43. It's a little crazy. We don't need to do anything with that. Geometry, if you wanted to, you could distort the image if you wanted to, which just looks weird, but sometimes it might make sense. I don't know. Actually, that kind of almost looks like you added like another like 4x zoom or something like that, but it looks weird. So anyway, we're gonna put that back at 0. We're not gonna deal with that. And again, before, after. Again, I'm not making any crazy changes to this, especially in this particular photo. But anyway, we're gonna go, let me go back here. We're gonna go to masking on the bottom left, and we're gonna add a mask, and we're gonna select the subject. And basically it's preparing to use for the first time, because I don't really use this app a whole lot. But basically if you select the subject, what it's gonna do is it's gonna select the subject. This case, it is the bike. So what we're gonna do with that is we are going to, I think there was a way to invert it, maybe. Oops. Let's go back to the mask. Let's go here. Oh, there we go. You can push invert on the left-hand side. That's gonna invert the mask, because that's what we really wanna focus on here. And what that's gonna do is it's going to, everything in red is what's gonna be affected by my next change. And all I'm going to do is I'm gonna go to light on the bottom, and I'm gonna bring the background exposure down just a little bit. That'll just help pop the bike just a little bit more, which I really like. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna contrast it up just a little bit in the background. But overall, we want to make sure that the bike is standing out. And then to go, we're going to go mask it again. We're going to add one more mask, select subject, which is going to select the bike again. This time we're going to keep it on the bike, and we're going to go to light. We're going to expose the bike just a little bit, maybe like right there. Check mark. There's our before, there's our after. Before, after. All right, I'm pretty satisfied with this. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna come up here to this little arrow button. We are going to go to export to camera roll. It's gonna export, it's gonna render it. Now it's in your camera roll. And now I'll pop up the picture, the final image here, and let me know what you think. So yeah, so anyway, I hope you got something of value out of this. I know it's a lot, especially when it comes to the editing side of it, but it's just a matter of shooting. Get out there, take as many photos as possible, try different things, new things. These are just a couple things that I do personally, and that's kind of the look that I go for. It doesn't mean that one size fits all. Everybody has a different shooting style, everybody has a different preference. So feel free to go get creative, go take pictures of your bike. You have it, you have a cell phone that you're paying for monthly, use it. Use it for other things other than just watching other people's content. Go out there and create your own. Take some photos, post them on Instagram, find me on Instagram and tag me in the photos so I can see what you're working with. I would love to critique your stuff, of course, a constructive criticism style, and vice versa. I would like to see what you think of some of the photos that I've taken, and let's collaborate a little bit. It'll be fun. Anyway, until next time.